Welcome to the world of science fiction stories, and don't forget to share and subscribe the channel. The escape pod broke through Outpost Helios 7's atmosphere with a shriek of superheated metal. Inside, Nera clutched her twins to her chest, her luminescent gold skin dimmed with exhaustion and fear. The emergency systems blared warnings she no longer had the strength to acknowledge. "Hold on, little ones," she whispered to Raya and Joran, who stared up at her with identical violet eyes. Their small hands gripped her tattered uniform, their bodies trembling with each violent shake of the failing craft. 3 weeks on the run. 3 weeks since the Zarthian hunters had destroyed their colony, murdered her mate, and forced her to flee with nothing but the clothes on her back and her children in her arms. The twins were barely 4 cycles old, too young to understand why they couldn't go home, why they had to stay quiet when the hunters came near, why mother sometimes cried when she thought they were sleeping. The pod stabilizers gave out with a final mechanical sigh. Nera braced herself as the small craft plummeted toward the planet's surface, her arms forming a protective cage around her children. The impact came with a sickening crunch of metal and bone. When consciousness returned, Nera tasted blood. The pod lay half buried in rust-colored soil, its hull split open like a cracked egg. Through the gap, 2 moons hung in an alien sky. She tried to move and agony lanced up her leg. Broken. Badly. Raya? Joran? Her voice was a raw whisper. Relief washed over her as twin pairs of violet eyes blinked open. They were alive, seemingly unharmed, but for how long? The emergency beacon was damaged. The life support systems were offline. And the Zarthian hunters, they would not be far behind. "We need to find shelter," she told them, trying to keep her voice steady despite the pain gnawing at her leg. "Can you both be very brave for Mother?" They nodded solemnly, their small faces serious beyond their years. Together, they helped her limp from the wreckage into the alien landscape. Helios 7 was a frontier outpost, barely colonized, with settlements scattered across its harsh terrain. Somewhere in this wasteland was civilization, if they could reach it before their strength gave out or the hunters found them. The twin suns beat down mercilessly as they struggled across the barren plains. Nera's vision blurred. Each step sent fresh waves of agony through her injured leg. The twins walked beside her, supporting her as best their small bodies could. They didn't complain, didn't cry, even as their own strength began to flag. When Nera collapsed, it was sudden. One moment she was walking, the next she was face down in the dust, consciousness slipping away despite her desperate attempts to hold on. The last thing she heard was Raya's frightened voice calling for her, and Joran's small hand patting her face. Dr. Tomas Rivera was collecting soil samples when his scanner picked up the crash. As the only physician assigned to this sector of Helios 7, emergency response fell to him by default. He loaded his medical kit into his rover and headed toward the coordinates, expecting yet another mining accident or equipment malfunction. What he found instead stopped him cold. 2 small aliens, children, by their size, were huddled protectively over the body of an adult. Their gold skin gleamed dully in the sunlight, marked with intricate patterns that shifted with their emotions. The adult, female, he guessed, lay unconscious, a compound fracture visible through her torn clothing. When they saw him approach, the children positioned themselves between him and the injured woman, their violet eyes wide with fear but their stance defiant. "I'm a doctor," Tomas said gently, showing them his medical insignia. "I can help." They didn't move, didn't speak. One of them, the girl, he thought, stretched out her hand, and for a moment, Tomas felt a strange sensation brush against his mind. An assessment. A question without words. Then, as if satisfied, they stepped aside. Tomas worked quickly. The woman's injuries were severe: broken leg, internal bleeding, severe dehydration. The children watched his every move, occasionally touching their mother's face or hands, communicating in a language of gestures and expressions too subtle for him to interpret. "We need to get her to my medical station," he told them, unsure if they understood. "She needs surgery." To his surprise, the boy nodded and spoke in halting standard. "Help, mother. Please." Tomas carefully loaded the unconscious woman onto his rover, the twins climbing in beside her, unwilling to be separated even for a moment. As they traveled, he studied them curiously. He recognized their species. Vexillions were rare in this sector, but not unheard of. What was unusual was finding them alone, without their clan. Vexillions were notoriously clannish, rarely traveling without extended family. "What's your mother's name?" he asked. "Nera," the girl answered. "I Raya." "He Joran." "What happened to your ship?" The twins exchanged a look loaded with meaning. "Bad ones," Joran said finally. "Hunting us." A chill ran down Tomas's spine. Children this young shouldn't know the word hunting in that context. Something terrible had happened to this family. At the medical station, a prefabricated structure that served as both his home and clinic, Tomas worked through the night to save Nera's life. The twins never left her side, even when exhaustion made their small bodies sway with fatigue. Dawn was breaking when Nera finally opened her eyes. She jerked upright with a cry of alarm, reaching instinctively for her children. "They're here," Tomas said, guiding the twins into her line of sight. "They're safe. So are you." Nera's relief was palpable, but short-lived. "The beacon," she said, her voice hoarse with urgency. "When our pod crashed, did it send a signal?" "Yes, that's how I found you." "Then they will come," she whispered, pulling her children closer. "The hunters. They will track the signal." "Who's hunting you?" Tomas asked, sitting down beside her. "Maybe I can help." Nera studied him, her gaze assessing and wary. Then something shifted in her expression, the same moment of decision he'd seen in the twins. Trust or die. There was no middle ground left for this family. "My children are special," she began, her voice low. "They have abilities that my people thought lost generations ago. Abilities the Zarthian Collective wants to harness as weapons." Tomas looked at the twins, who stared back at him with those unnerving violet eyes. He'd witnessed something unusual when Raya had reached out to him, a touch that went beyond the physical. "What kind of abilities?" "Telepathy. Empathic projection. Energy manipulation. They're still young, their gifts are just beginning to manifest. But the Zarthians somehow learned of them. They destroyed our colony, killed my mate, hunted us across 3 systems. And now they're coming here," Tomas said, understanding the gravity of their situation. Nera nodded, her expression bleak. "I have nothing left. Nothing but my children. And soon, not even them, if the hunters find us." Tomas stood, his decision made before he even consciously considered it. "Then we'd better make sure they don't find you." For the first time, a flicker of hope sparked in Nera's eyes. "Why would you help us? You don't even know us." Tomas smiled, already mentally cataloging the supplies they would need, the precautions they would take. "Because that's what humans do. We protect those who need protecting. And right now, that's you and your children." He didn't tell her about the nightmares that still haunted him, the colony on Vega Prime, the pandemic he couldn't stop, the thousands he couldn't save. He didn't tell her that in her desperate fight to protect her children, he saw a chance at redemption. Instead, he simply extended his hand. "I'm Dr. Tomas Rivera. And for as long as you need it, this place is your sanctuary." The medical station's warning system blared to life at midnight, jerking Tomas from a fitful sleep. He rolled from his cot, grabbing his datapad to check the perimeter scanners. An unidentified vessel had entered Helio 7's atmosphere, its trajectory suggesting a deliberate approach rather than a routine supply drop. "They found us," Nera said from the doorway, her golden skin ashen in the dim emergency lighting. She'd been on her feet for barely 2 days, her broken leg healing slowly even with accelerated treatment. "We don't know that yet," Tomas replied, though the tightness in his chest suggested otherwise. He pulled up the station's defense protocols, limited, but better than nothing. Where are the twins? Sleeping. For now. She limped to his side, studying the scanner readout. That's a Zarthian scout ship. I recognize the energy signature. Tomas cursed under his breath. The Zarthian collective was officially neutral toward the human alliance, but rumors abounded about their clandestine experiments and willingness to destroy anyone who interfered with their goals. How much time do we have? Hours, maybe. They'll land at a distance and approach on foot to avoid detection. Nera's voice was steady, but her hands trembled. We should run. You're still injured, and there's nowhere to go. This outpost is the only settlement for 100 kilometers. Tomas moved to his medical cabinet, pulling out supplies. We need to understand what we're up against. Tell me about your children's abilities, everything you know. Nera hesitated, then slowly sank into a chair. The twins were born during a stellar alignment that happens once in 1,000 years. According to our oldest traditions, children born during this alignment may inherit the ancestral gifts. And that's what happened to Raya and Joran. Yes, but differently than the legends described. Instead of manifesting in adolescence, their abilities appeared almost from birth. Her voice softened with wonder. When they were infants, they could sense my emotions before I expressed them. By their first cycle, they could communicate with each other without speaking. By their second, they could touch objects and read their history. Tomas frowned. Psychometry. We call it memory walking. But it's more than that. She leaned forward. They don't just see images, they experience them. And sometimes they can alter them. Alter memories. Alter reality. Her violet eyes met his, challenging him to disbelieve. Small things at first. A wilted flower blooming again. A broken toy mending itself. But as they grow stronger. Tomas felt a chill at the implications. That's why the Zarthians want them. The collective believes they can weaponize my children, use them to rewrite the fabric of existence itself. Nera's voice cracked. My mate died protecting that secret. A soft sound from the hallway drew their attention. Raya and Joran stood there in their sleep clothes, small faces solemn. The bad ones are coming, Joran said simply. Raya nodded. We felt them wake up when they entered our sky. Tomas knelt to their level. You can sense them from that distance. Instead of answering, Raya placed her small palm against his forehead. The sensation was immediate, a flood of impressions that weren't his own, hunger, anticipation, cold determination. Hunter's thoughts. They're tracking something inside us, Joran explained when Raya withdrew her hand. A brightness they can see across space. Tomas blinked, disoriented by the psychic contact. You've been broadcasting your location without realizing it. It's not something we can control yet, Nera said, gathering her children close. They're too young to fully understand their abilities, let alone master them. Tomas paced, mind racing through possibilities. If they're tracking your children's energy signature, we need to find a way to mask it. That's impossible. Nothing can shield what they are. Maybe not on your world. Tomas moved to his research terminal. But humans have been developing psychic dampening technology since first contact with telepathic species. It's rudimentary, but... He pulled up schematics for the mineral composites used in psychiatric facilities that housed psychically dangerous patients. The formulation was classified, but as a military doctor, he had access to emergency protocols that included manufacturing instructions. The outpost's geology lab has most of these elements, he muttered, scrolling through the list. If I can synthesize even a crude version, it might buy us time. While Nera settled the twins back to sleep with soft songs in their native tongue, Tomas worked feverishly in his lab. Dawn found him bleary-eyed but triumphant, holding two simple bracelets fashioned from a dull gray material. It's not perfect, he told Nera, demonstrating how to secure them around the children's wrists. But it should confuse their energy signature enough to make tracking difficult. Will it hurt them? She asked, touching the material warily. No. It just creates a buffer between their abilities and the outside world. He hesitated. But it will also dampen their powers while they wear them. Nera's expression clouded. Their gifts are part of who they are. To suppress them. It's temporary, Tomas assured her. Just until we figure out a more permanent solution. The solution presented itself sooner than expected. As Tomas helped Raya adjust her bracelet, the little girl suddenly gasped, her violet eyes widening. Dr. Tomas, she whispered, you're like us. Joran nodded enthusiastically. Inside. Deep down. A small light sleeping. Tomas stared at them, bewildered. What are you talking about? Nera moved closer, her gaze intense. Humans don't have psychic abilities. Some do, Tomas corrected absently, still focused on the twins. Minimal ones. Nothing compared to what your children can do. Show us, Raya demanded, placing her small hand on his again. This time, the sensation was different, not an intrusion of foreign emotions, but an awakening of something dormant. A warmth spreading from where her fingers touched his skin, flowing up his arm and into his chest, where it bloomed like a forgotten memory. Images flashed behind his eyes, a childhood incident where he'd known his sister was in danger before the accident occurred, the inexplicable hunches that had guided his diagnoses when medical scans showed nothing, the dreams that had shown him patients' ailments before they manifested. Latent ability, Nera breathed, watching his face. Undeveloped but present. Tomas pulled away, disturbed. I'm a scientist. I don't believe in. You felt it all your life, Joran interrupted. But your people taught you not to listen. The perimeter alarm cut through the moment, its urgent tone signaling a breach at the furthest sensor. They're here, Nera said, gathering the twins close. The dampeners aren't working. Tomas checked his scanner. 7 life signs approaching from the south. Heavily armed. Zarthian hunters, she confirmed, fear evident in her voice. Elite soldiers bred for tracking and killing. Tomas made a quick decision. We need to get to the emergency bunker beneath the station. It's radiation shielded, might help mask their signature further. As they hurried through the station, Tomas felt something strange, a pressure building behind his eyes, a heightening of his senses that made the air itself seem charged with potential. The twins had awakened something in him, something that now strained toward use like a muscle long atrophied suddenly called to action. In the narrow corridor leading to the bunker, Joran suddenly stopped, tugging at Tomas's hand. They're splitting up. 3 coming to the front door. 2 to the back. 2 circling around. How do you know that? Tomas asked, though he already suspected the answer. I can see through their eyes, the boy said simply. They're hunting us like my father. Nera made a small sound of distress, and Tomas squeezed her arm reassuringly. We're not going to let that happen, he promised, ushering them toward the hidden panel that concealed the bunker entrance. Humans are pretty good at surviving impossible situations. It's kind of our specialty. As they descended into the darkness, Tomas felt that strange pressure intensify. Something was changing, in him, in the twins, in the very air around them. A convergence of energies, building toward an unknown crescendo. Doctor, Raya whispered as the bunker door sealed behind them, the bad ones don't know what they're hunting. They think we're weapons to be used. Aren't you? Tomas asked gently. She shook her head, violet eyes luminous in the dim emergency lighting. We're keys. For opening doors that have been closed too long. What doors? But before she could answer, the first explosion shook the medical station above them, and the hunt began in earnest. The bunker trembled as another explosion rocked the medical station above. Dust sifted down from the ceiling, coating their shoulders in a fine gray powder. Tomas checked the security feed on his datapad, his expression grim. They're methodically destroying everything, he said. Looking for access points. Nera clutched her children close, her golden skin now pallid with fear. The bunker is shielded. They won't detect us, will they? Tomas wished he could offer reassurance, but false hope would only endanger them further. Standard scanners won't penetrate this deep, but if they have technology specifically designed to track the twins. They do, Joran said matter-of-factly. His small face was unnaturally calm. They have machines that can taste our light. Raya nodded in agreement. The machines are telling them we're under the ground. Tomas felt that strange pressure behind his eyes again, stronger now, like something trying to push through a membrane between worlds. Ever since the twins had awakened whatever dormant ability he possessed, his perception had been shifting in subtle but unmistakable ways. He could almost feel the Zarthian hunters moving above them, their purposeful strides creating ripples in his consciousness. We need to move, he decided, gathering emergency supplies. This bunker was designed as a temporary radiation shelter, not a fortress. There's a maintenance tunnel that connects to the geothermal plant 2 kilometers east. With my injured leg, Nera began. I'll help you, Tomas said firmly. The twins need you alive, Nera. We'll make it work. As they prepared to leave, Raya suddenly went rigid, her violet eyes unfocused. They found the door, she whispered. They're bringing the big cutter. A harsh, grinding noise confirmed her warning seconds later, the unmistakable sound of industrial cutting tools against reinforced metal. The tunnel, Tomas urged, sliding aside a hidden panel in the bunker's eastern wall. Quickly. The maintenance passage was narrow and dimly lit by emergency strip lighting that flickered erratically. Tomas led the way, with Nera limping behind him and the twins following close. The air grew progressively warmer as they moved toward the geothermal facility, carrying the sulfurous smell of the planet's volcanic activity. Behind them, a tremendous crash echoed through the tunnel, the bunker door giving way. Alien voices called out in harsh, clicking tones that seemed to slice through the air itself. They're inside, Nera gasped, stumbling. Tomas caught her before she fell. Keep moving. We're almost. He broke off as a blinding light suddenly bloomed ahead of them, illuminating 3 tall figures blocking their path. Zarthians. Their exoskeletal bodies gleamed like polished obsidian in the tunnel's dim light, articulated limbs ending in precision tools designed equally well for delicate manipulation or lethal combat. Halt, human, the lead hunter commanded, its translator rendering its clicks into jagged standard. Surrender the aberrations, and you may live. Tomas pushed Nera and the twins behind him, though he knew the gesture was futile. They were trapped between 2 groups of hunters in a tunnel barely wide enough for 2 adults to walk abreast. These children are under my protection, he said, surprised by the steadiness in his voice. By interplanetary law, I claim asylum for them as refugees fleeing genocide. The Zarthian made a sound that might have been laughter. Laws do not apply to unregistered specimens. The aberrations are collective property. They're Vexillian citizens. Their colony no longer exists. There are no witnesses. There is no record. The hunter advanced, compound eyes gleaming with cold intelligence. Step aside, human. This does not concern your kind. Tomas felt a surge of anger so intense it made his vision blur. That's where you're wrong. These children and their mother are under Human Alliance protection now. My protection. Something strange was happening to him. The pressure behind his eyes had become a pulsing heat that spread through his body, gathering in his hands like static electricity before a storm. The air around him seemed to thicken, waver, as if reality itself was responding to his fury. The Zarthian paused, its sensory organs registering something its logic couldn't process. What are you doing, human? Tomas didn't know, not consciously. But some newly awakened part of him understood perfectly. He raised his hands, palms outward, and the energy building inside him exploded outward in a visible shockwave that slammed into the Zarthians with bone-breaking force. The hunters flew backward, their exoskeletons cracking against the tunnel walls. Alarms shrieked from their equipment as systems failed catastrophically. Tomas stared at his hands in disbelief. How did I? The twins opened your door, Nera said, her voice filled with wonder. Just as they said. There was no time to process what had happened. The Zarthians behind them were advancing rapidly, weapons primed. Tomas grabbed Nera's arm, supporting her weight as they hurried past the stunned hunters. The geothermal plant has a communication array, he panted as they ran. If we can send a distress signal to the Human Alliance outpost in the next system. A searing bolt of energy struck the wall beside them, showering them with molten rock. Tomas pushed the twins forward, using his body to shield them from the debris. They're shooting to disable, not kill, Nera observed. They want the children intact. Small comfort, Tomas muttered, feeling blood trickle down his face from a gash left by flying shrapnel. The tunnel widened as they approached the geothermal facility, opening into a vast chamber filled with humming machinery. Superheated steam roared through massive pipes, feeding the generators that powered the entire outpost. The noise was deafening, the heat oppressive. Tomas led them to the control room, sealing the reinforced door behind them. We need to barricade ourselves in while I send the distress call, he shouted over the machinery's roar. But as he moved toward the communication console, Raya and Joran exchanged a meaningful look. It's too late for that, Joran said. Raya nodded solemnly. The door is opening too wide now. We can't stop it. What door? Tomas demanded, that strange pressure building in his skull again. You keep talking about doors, but... The floor beneath them shuddered violently, not from an explosion, but from something deeper, a tectonic shift that seemed to originate from the planet's core itself. Warning lights flashed across the control panels as sensors registered massive energy fluctuations. What's happening? Nera cried, clinging to the twins. Tomas checked the readouts, bewildered. Some kind of energy surge in the geothermal system. But it's not coming from the vents, it's as if the energy is being pulled from somewhere else entirely. Raya placed her small hand on the control console, and it lit up with an unearthly glow that spread along her arm and across her body. Joran did the same, the twins forming a circuit of light that seemed to pulse in rhythm with the planet's suddenly racing heartbeat. They're not weapons, Nera whispered, understanding dawning in her eyes. They're conduits. The door to the control room buckled inward as the Zarthian hunters brought their cutting tools to bear. Sparks flew as the metal yielded inch by inch. Whatever you're doing, Tomas told the twins frantically, do it faster. Raya turned to him, her violet eyes now glowing with that same unearthly light. We need your help, Dr. Tomas. Your door is open now too. I don't understand. Your people forgot the old ways, Joran explained, his voice strangely adult. You buried your light beneath science and reason. But it was always there, waiting. The truth that binds all living things, Raya continued. The energy that flows through worlds and between stars. Psychic ability? Tomas guessed, struggling to comprehend. Bigger, Joran said. Older. The first force. The one that shaped everything else. The door gave way with a screech of tortured metal. 7 Zarthian hunters poured into the control room, weapons ready. Their leader stepped forward, mandibles clicking in triumph. The specimens will be contained, it announced. Resistance ends now. Tomas stood before Nera and the twins, that strange energy coursing through him again, stronger than before. You're not taking them, he growled. The Zarthian aimed its weapon. Your primitive defiance is noted, human. It changes nothing. You're wrong, Tomas said, feeling the energy build to unbearable levels. It changes everything. He reached back blindly, finding the twins' small hands. The moment they touched, the world exploded into light. Energy surged through their joined bodies, not destructive but transformative, reshaping the very fabric of reality around them. The Zarthians recoiled, their sensory organs overloaded by the sudden radiation of power. The control room seemed to waver, its boundaries becoming fluid, permeable. Through the haze of energy, Tomas saw something impossible, a doorway where no door had been before, shimmering with the same light that now engulfed them all. Beyond it lay not another room or tunnel, but a vast expanse of stars and swirling nebulae, closer and more immediate than they had any right to be. "What is this?" he gasped. "The way home," Raya answered simply. "The true home of all living things." The Zarthian leader fired its weapon in desperation, but the energy beam dissipated harmlessly into the light surrounding them. "You know so little," Joran told the hunters, his childish voice resonant with ancient wisdom. "You sought weapons, but found gods instead." The light intensified to blinding levels, and Tomas felt himself being pulled toward that impossible doorway, Nera and the twins moving with him as if carried by an invisible tide. The Zarthians scrambled to stop them, but their bodies seemed to move in slow motion, trapped in a different flow of time. The last thing Tomas saw before they crossed the threshold was the look of terrified comprehension dawning in the Zarthian leader's compound eyes, the sudden, devastating understanding that it had not been hunting prey, but pursuing something far beyond its comprehension. Then they were through the door, and everything.